So, just when you think the Snowflake Brigade couldn't get any more fragile, the University of Arizona comes out with this. University students, interject ouch whenever your feelings are hurt. The University of Arizona really doesn't want any of its students to have hurt feelings, so they've issued a 20-page guide for professors on how to avoid offending their pupils. Because that's the most important thing universities are teaching these days, how not to offend people. The document entitled Diversity and Inclusiveness in the Classroom tells professors they should encourage students to say ouch when they're offended in class. The offending party is supposed to say oops in response. Yeah, I'm sure that'll catch on. Now, like a lot of you are probably thinking, I wasn't sure whether this was actually real or not. So I went to the original document. And here it is, in all its glory. Diversity and inclusiveness in the classroom. I mean, aren't you included by virtue of the fact that you're in a classroom with other people? And the author is one Jesus Trevino, PhD Vice Provost for Inclusive Excellence, a completely and utterly meaningless title. But let me try and modify it. Vice Provost for Infantilization and Pampering. Now, I'm going to link to this document below, but I don't encourage you to read it because you might lose all hope for humanity. So I'm going to skip over the cancer of the first 6 pages and go straight to the section outlined in the article. Now, this comes under a section titled Preparing Students for Addressing Diversity in the Classroom, and a subsection, Tools, Exercises for Preparing Students to Interact in the Classroom. And the strategy in question is personal and group affirmation. Creating a safe space for students for engaging in dialogue about challenging topics is vital in promoting positive intergroup interactions. No, it isn't. You don't need a safe space to talk to other people unless you have psychological problems. Some ground rules might include 1 diva, 1 mic. Do not interrupt others. Only one speaker should talk at a time. Yeah, but what if said speaker is talking shit, or is just plain wrong, or is interrupted because it's not clear what they're talking about and you need clarification? There are plenty of legitimate reasons to interrupt someone speaking. Sorry for the interruption. Confidentiality. Encourage students to continue these conversations outside of class with their peers. However, make sure that students do not disclose the names of students who shared in class. In other words, they can share the idea without saying whose idea it was. Oh yeah, imagine how helpful that conversation will be. Do you remember that thing that person said in the classroom today? Who are you talking about? Well, I can't say, but they said something about race. Yeah, the whole class was about race, mate. Who are you talking about? That's confidential. I mean, shoot me in the face. And here's the money shot. Oops, ouch. If a student feels hurt or offended by another student's comment, the hurt student can say, ouch. In acknowledgement, the student who made the hurtful comment says, oops. If necessary, there can be further dialogue about this exchange. No further dialogue is needed. If you see 2 people carrying on like this, what is needed is psychiatric evaluation. Now, there's a real problem here that I've talked about before, and I'm going to talk about again, and that's conflating actual physical violence with hurt feelings, or in this case, a reaction to physical pain with hurt feelings. Now, you might remember this video I did a few months back with Jonathan Haidt and a precious snowflake at New York University. Have a listen to this exchange.
These institutions were sort of built in a way to perpetuate systems that are racist. This is undeniable. And what I'm saying is that there's a difference between saying like, oh, hey, it's great that you're here. I'm going to put you on my pamphlet and show everybody how diverse I am, and actually making sure that the classroom is a safe place for me, a place where I have the same opportunity as students who have privilege to just sit there and be able to learn and not have to be fending off constantly all of these sort of, like violent acts that are thrown my way. And
violent? Is there violence?
I mean, I think that violence is not just limited to sort of physical things.
Right.
Right. And I thought that you would take issue with that notion.
That's called concept creep. Yes.
Yeah.
So this infant actually thinks hearing something in class that hurts your feelings can be classed as violence. Now, how are you going to cope in the real world, in a workplace situation, when you're in a meeting and someone disagrees with you or challenges your opinion? Are you going to run to the boss and complain that an act of violence was committed against you? Ground rules help students feel comfortable being honest. Students should be affirmed for being open, honest, and vulnerable about their perspectives and experiences. This contributes to promoting mutual respect and trust among group members. Yeah, but what if my honest opinion is that abortion is immoral and the government should not subsidise it? Will that view be affirmed? I have my doubts. Of course, it's only approved perspectives that will be affirmed. I think they left that bit out. Now, this document is a treasure trove of infantilizing bullshit. Take the opening page, for example. Diversity poses both challenges and opportunities for a college campus. One place where this is certainly true is the college classroom. With respect to challenges, faculty and students continuing to experience conflict and tension related to the different views, perceptions, and backgrounds represented in the classroom. Here are some potential examples. A heterosexual student claiming that LGBTQIA alphabet soup individuals do not have the right to exist, using their religion to justify this claim. I mean, is that really happening in the classroom? Or is it confined to members of Westboro Baptist Church holding up God hates fag signs? I mean, in an ISIS classroom, maybe, but I don't think they're too concerned about diversity. A faculty member expecting a Latinx or Latinx. Now, I had to look that shit up. Latinx is a gender-neutral alternative to Latino or Latina. Student in the classroom to educate the rest of the class on the topic of Mexican immigration patterns. Now, why would any teacher do that? Why would they assume that a Mexican would know the details of immigration patterns of their country? It's not like knowing what colours are on your national flag. I mean, who's asking these questions? Well, probably no one. That's why they are potential examples. Male students continuously disrupting the class by directing sexist comments at a female teaching assistant. Again, did this actually happen? I went to university in the early 90s and I never saw this. And does interrupting with sexist comments mean just disagreeing with a woman? But this one is my favourite. A white student threatening an African American student over views on affirmative action. Threatening. How would that conversation go exactly? I'm going to punch you because you believe in affirmative action? Seriously, again, does threatening mean I don't believe in affirmative action? I believe everybody should be treated equally? Is that what you mean by threatening? For me, this whole diversity and inclusion industrial complex comes down to this. They're solutions in search of a problem that doesn't exist. So you have to invent it with contrived examples like these. I think Douglas Murray put it best on Sam Harris's podcast last year.
I sort of don't mind about the labels anymore. And to tell the truth, I know it might be different in America, but in Europe and in Britain these days, I think that these things are mattering less and less, and we're losing patience with this game. Because you see, if the whole game is played on the left's terms, as it were, then first of all, we'll lose because there is no possibility of confronting very large societal issues only with one fragment of the political spectrum. And it's also very clear, I would say, by now, that and I mean, look, I've got, I'd say some of my best friends on the left, but it is very clear to some of us that the left has been the problem on dealing with these issues. It is the left that has been throwing around willful and I think deliberately, knowing that they're not true, allegations against people. I've often said that with the modern left, since certainly the end of the Cold War, they've basically had a supply and demand problem. They want racists, they want Nazis, they want bigots, and actually, thank goodness, certainly in my society, I think in yours, they're in pretty short supply. And so these people have to find them. They want a supply of bigots and racists and fascists, and actually the supply is extremely small, and the people that they demand are too small in number to really give them enough of a political identity. So they stretch it out. They've deliberately used as offensive terms as they could, and used them of people that they must know do not fit that label. And I think the result is, by the way, among other things, that they have denuded certain terms of any meaning, and that this is going to come back and bite the left in a big way. And I can see this happening in Europe all the time at the moment.
Actually, that podcast was in November 2015, so Douglas' prediction that this kind of bullshit would come back to bite the left was quite prophetic. Now, in addition to the ouch, oops strategy, the guide recommends 9 other strategies, one of which is the use of metaphor. Like stories, metaphors are also tools that assist students in dialogue, helping them express themselves and their perspectives in interesting and deep ways. For example, participants might be asked to use a metaphor to describe their understanding of race relations in America. Someone might provide the following metaphor. Race relations in America remind me of the relationship between the earth and the sky. The earth represents ethnic racial minorities, which sends water, e.g. diverse cultures, perspectives, opinions, to the clouds through the process of evaporation, making the sky look beautiful. For their part, clouds, which remind me of whites, return the water back to the earth and enrich it. Both the earth and the clouds are equally important and need each other in order to live and make life interesting. Now, as a former classroom teacher, here's a tip. If you need to explain your metaphor, as you've done here with explanations in brackets, then it's not a good metaphor, and I would grade this as an F. And I doubt this would pass muster with SJWs anyway. I mean, minorities are the earth and whites are the sky. So whites are above minorities, and whites take the evaporation, culture, and change it into rain. Well, that's a good metaphor for cultural appropriation. If you want to have a discussion about race relations, how about talking about actual issues rather than some touchy-feely, hopelessly inaccurate metaphor? And of course, what would a diversity and inclusion indoctrination be without references to microaggressions, micro-insults, and micro-invalidations? Anyway, that's it for today's frolic in the park of university insanity. Let me know your thoughts on the cult of diversity and inclusion in the comments below. And I'll see you next time.